Alright, so let's go ahead and get a target started. So I'm just going to turn on the TV. I'm going to slew over the enemy. And that looks good. Alright. Missile has been launched. Let's get out of here. What? Oh shit. I think I'm good. What? Oh crap.
God f***ing damn it!
Alright, so I feel like I need to make this video because I already got a comment describing someone's frustration of DCS World and how it's so hard to control an aircraft. And for good reason. So, if you noticed, I tried to jerk the controls, and when I tried to do so, I lost control and I plummeted into the ground. That's because my aircraft stalled. I'm in the Su-25T, and this is actually something you can get for free. Now, if you're wondering why I stalled, there is a very good reason. And that very good reason involves this concept known as angle of attack. So, this game is not like Ace Combat. In Ace Combat, you can pull back on the stick all the way, and nothing bad could ever really happen. You'll just turn normally, and everything is good. In DCS World, on the other hand, if you were to do that, and I am kind of going a little too fast, if you were to do that, then what will happen is that you will reach the critical angle of attack and stall. And that's not a good thing. So over here, on the left meter of what I'm centered on, is the angle of attack indicator. Notice that I'm turning. And while I'm turning, I'm pretty fine. Nothing bad is happening, I am in the yellow. But when I move it all the way into the angle of attack, the critical angle of attack, I immediately go into a stall. And for those of you who don't know, the word angle of attack might be a little bit confusing to you because I haven't really described it. Hopefully this will help. Alright, so in order to understand the angle of attack, you first need to understand basic aerodynamics. This is an airfoil. This is pretty much a wing. And if you notice that there are two parts to this wing, you have a top and a bottom. The top is curved, while the bottom is flat. And this is pretty much the same with every single wing, along with every single helicopter rotor. There are very few exceptions to this. But if you were to notice, on top of here, the air is condensed, as opposed to here, which the air is not, and there is a reason for that. When air travels past a wing, it will end up on the trailing edge of a wing the same time, regardless of whether it's top or bottom. But since the top of the wing has a lot more surface, that means that the air on top has to travel faster than the air on the bottom in order to actually meet at the same time. What that does is that it creates a low pressure here. I really suck at drawing with a mouse, so forgive me. And a high pressure here. Now, if you know anything about physics, you'll know that high pressure wants to go to low pressure. So what the high pressure will do is that it will push on the bottom of a wing to get to the low pressure, and that creates lift. Now, what does this have to do with the angle of attack? Well, if you notice the bottom of a wing, it's very flat. This is actually what you call the wing chord. It's the line that connects the leading edge of the airplane, or of the wing, to the trailing edge of the wing. And so imagine if this thing was a line. The thing about it, though, is that the wind is almost never parallel to the wing chord. Usually it'll be something like this. like the wind is traveling this direction. That is called the angle of attack. Now, when it comes to the angle of attack, there is this one limit, because if, let's say that the air from the angle of attack is going at too high of an angle, instead of traveling smoothly like this, or as smoothly as my stupid mouse can travel, it will pretty much move like this, where it just rolls off the wing. And when that happens, the air pressure up here is the same as the air pressure down there, which means that there is no lift. When this happens, there is a stall. And when it comes to a wing of an airplane, the critical angle of attack, as in the angle at which it creates this type of little vortex, is always the same. So the angle of attack, or the critical angle of attack on an Su-25, in one Su-25 will be the same as one in the other. And it doesn't matter how fast you are going or what the flap configuration is, it will always be that. One common misconception about aircraft and stalling is that stalling has to involve speed. Stalling is caused by speed. That isn't really true. Yes, if you go too slow, then you will stall, but there is a reason for that, and it is in relation to the angle of attack. Okay, so, for example, I have several indicators that you should pay attention to. The one on the right is the vertical speed indicator. It shows me whether I'm climbing up or down. The one in the middle is the artificial horizon. So imagine that the divide between black and white is the direction that the wind is heading, because all wind is relative. And the third, on the left, is my speedometer. You'll notice that thing will drop rapidly, and I'll show you what a stall is like. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the throttle all the way. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to try to keep this needle as close to zero as possible, and you'll see what happens. Notice that I am bleeding off airspeed. That's to be expected, considering that there really isn't that much thrust going on. But if you notice, I need to keep raising my nose in order to maintain that zero. And while that's happening, my bank angle, or not my bank angle, but my pitch angle is going up, while my speed is going down. So I just keep doing it like this. Keep climbing, keep climbing, keep climbing. Keeping it towards zero. And you'll notice right here my angle of attack is going up as well. Now we're in the yellow, and we're about to reach critical angle of attack. We have almost no speed. The plane's warning me that I'm about to stall. And we have completely stalled. The way to recover from that is to dip the nose down and to apply full throttle. That'll gain you some speed, and that'll help you recover. As such. Now, the difference between an Su-25 and a MiG-21 is that the MiG-21 is a fighter jet. It will be able to turn more sharply than an Su-25. It'll also be able to climb better. So, when it comes to the Su-25, you really don't want to bank like that, or you really don't want to turn like that. You don't want to get to such a high angle of attack. But with a jet fighter like this, you can pretty much go, not balls to the wall, but you can pretty much pull back on the stick pretty far before you actually need to pull back. Also, higher speed will be a factor as well. Generally with a MiG-21, you want to be in between 925 and 950. If you're losing speed, just pull back on, or pull forward on the stick a little bit. But even now, even in this fighter jet, I'm not pulling the stick all the way back. If I were to do that, then I will be close to stalling anyway. As you'll notice that my speed bleeds off, Yeah, that's never really good in a dogfight. When you start to bleed off speed in a dogfight, then you're not going to be able to turn as sharply. I am turning pretty sharp right now, but that's because I had accumulated speed going on. But if I were to keep doing this, then this is going to be a turn that I cannot continue. See, I'm already nearing a stall, and it's only getting closer and closer and closer to the red line. And once you reach that red line, it's going to be... the turn is going to be pretty crappy. The reason why my angle of attack went down is because I had the nose down, which gave me a little bit more energy, but it won't be able to hold up the angle of attack much longer. But yeah, in doing so, I have essentially depleted all my energy, and if I were in a dogfight, whoever is fighting me by now would be on my 6 o'clock, because he actually utilized his energy more efficiently. See, now I can't even turn. And this is a fighter jet. You've seen what happens in an Su-25 if you try to do that. But hopefully that does clear things up, because I did get a question regarding that, and I figured out that people starting out probably aren't going to understand. So there is one more factor to take into consideration when it comes to the angle of attack. Even though the angle of attack never really changes, it's still easier to reach the critical angle of attack if you are bogged down by a lot of weapons. As you can see, this is my angle of attack indicator, and already I'm at a high angle of attack. So, yeah, if you notice, I'm not exactly doing too well performance-wise. I'm at 223 miles an hour in climbing, but it's still pretty sluggish. And if you notice, I am loaded to the brink with bombs, and that is why. So, let's try to turn with this payload. It doesn't work, you will immediately stall. So, when it comes to weapons payloads, unfortunately, if you are very heavy, and your aircraft is very heavy, then you are going to have a hard time maneuvering. And if you're in a situation where you are in a dogfight or someone has fired on you, like a SAM, then it's going to be pretty difficult to defeat that. And that is pretty unfortunate. Weight on an aircraft is one of the negative factors that you have to take into consideration. That and drag. But when it comes to weight, that is something that you can really control. For example, notice that I'm also at full fuel. You don't have to be at full fuel to really finish the mission, or to even take off. You could take off and then refuel later. However, you may not be having a very fun time trying to refuel the plane while in midair, because frankly it's really difficult. Or you could carry less weapons. Or, better yet, you can use the weapons. But if you don't want to do any of that, then you can press this big red button. It jettisons everything. As such. So now that we have that out of the way, maneuvering this airplane, well, that's a little bit ironic. Anyway, maneuvering this airplane is much easier. I can turn much easier. I can maneuver much easier. Also, I can fly as much faster too, because when it comes to weapons, not only do they increase weight, but they also increase drag. So that's something you need to take into consideration as well. But, with all that said, there are a lot of things you can do. I'll just wait for that to die down. And that is some annoying ear rape, if you ask me. But yeah, regardless of what you do, if you don't have enough speed, or if the angle of attack reaches its critical angle of attack, then you will stall. And in a dogfight, that's not the best thing in the world. And as you can tell, it's very easy to reach the critical angle of attack. If that ever does happen, just pull back on the stick, or pull forward on the stick. So, pull too far, just let go a little bit, and you'll return back to a normal angle of attack. That is the best I can do. I mean, obviously this is not Ace Combat, and since people are probably transitioning from Ace Combat to DCS World now, thanks to my little video with Top Hats, I really think that there are going to be some people who are just going to get frustrated over this little fact. But hopefully this squared things away, hopefully this made things easier, and hopefully you learned something today, and this will help you improve your experience with DCS World, or whatever flight simulator you prefer, because really, they're pretty similar in most ways. If it's realistic, then you're going to have to deal with the angle of attack. So, with that said, oh, shut up, you. With that said, it's a fact of life, but you can control it, and you can avoid it. So, with that said, like and favorite this video, and subscribe. You guys have a nice day.